So we all know My Hero Academia is chock full of amazing superpowers called quirks. They allow people to fly, people to run, people to harden, people to produce flames, and people to be of absolute zero importance to the overall narrative,
leaving both the fan base and the series creator questioning why you even exist and how the hell you got into a school full of superhuman beings when there are so many other interesting characters that have been introduced that are far more powerful and unique.
Sorry, I'm just working out some stuff is all. But there is no quirk in the entire series more beloved and mysterious than One for All. The ability that once belonged to the symbol of peace, Mr. Hope himself, All Might, and now belongs to our ever-lovable main protagonist, Injury Boy, Deku. From One for All's introduction to the revelation of its origin and significance to the My Hero world, the journey and true power of this quirk has been shrouded in some mystery. Can anyone receive the quirk, or is there limitations? What actually happens when you transfer its power, and what exactly is going on when Midoriya sees and communicates with the previous user's vestiges? Well, luckily for you, dear viewer, that's exactly what I'm going to explain in this video, as I give you a full breakdown on the truth behind the power One for All. But be warned, there are major manga spoilers ahead, so if you're an anime-only simp and you don't want to be spoiled, I'd advise clicking away now. But if you're a Giga Chad who doesn't care about spoilers, then strap yourself in and prepare to feel the G's, because you're in for a good time. And just like all Giga Chads, don't forget to Detroit smash that like button and slide into that subscribe button's DMs to hit that notification bell. So if you have watched even a little bit of the My Hero anime or read the manga, you probably already have a decent idea of the basics behind One for All. And if you don't, then what the hell are you doing? Pay attention, you dumbass. One for All is a quirk that stockpiles power and can be transferred from one person to another, exponentially increasing its stockpiled power every time it's transferred. Basically, you get quirk, you train and become stronger, you pass on quirk, new quirk user gets your strength added onto their own. It's an easy enough system to understand, and as quirks go, it's certainly not the most complicated. I mean, don't even get me started on the semantics behind Eri's rewind ability, and if that's all there was to One for All, then this video would end right here. But as you could probably guess, the ability to stockpile and transfer power doesn't really explain how our protagonist Midoriya can go full Sixth Sense, seeing and communicating with the ghosts or vestiges of the quirk's previous users. Now you're probably wondering two things. One, how the hell does this work? And two, is Deku actually talking to dead people? Short answer, it's complicated. And it's complicated because it involves a hidden power within all quirks. You see, as it turns out, quirks aren't just supernatural powers people use to save lives, wreak havoc, or to look cool. But I mean, come on, they do make people look kinda cool. Quirks are actually a part of their user's very essence, connected directly to both their user's conscience and subconscious. Essentially, quirks are like their user's souls. While there is no scientific way to explain it, they are connected to their users through much more than just genetics or DNA. Now, while this fact is all well and good, it doesn't really make a single difference to how they work or what they do. I mean, oh wow, a quirk is someone's soul? Big whoop, Explosion Boy is still an asshole that makes explosions. Who gives a fuck about the metaphysical state of their powers? I just want to see the red and white haired boy with daddy issues shoot fire and ice and have an underlying polyamorous relationship with every other single character he comes in contact with. The fact that quirks are metaphysical and are connected to a person's conscience and subconscious changes absolutely nothing. That is, unless they can be transferred. If you somehow had the ability to pass your quirk onto someone else, then by doing so, you would also inadvertently transfer over a part of your own consciousness, technically living on within the new user. And this is exactly what happens with One for All. When a person who already has a quirk gets One for All, it not only stockpiles all of the new strength this new user is adding on, but it also stockpiles some of the power of their original quirk. Meaning that One for All contains all of the quirks that originally belonged to its previous users. Now, if this is a bit confusing, let me put it in my language. You have quirk, you get One for All. One for All takes in part of your quirk, you pass on One for All, the new user now has One for All with your quirk. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah, for the love of God, end my suffering. So what all this means is that the previous user's vestiges, or ghosts Midoriya sees in his dreams, are actually all of the previous previous users' consciousnesses living on through their quirks inside of One For All. Now initially, these vestiges existed deep within One For All's core, unable to communicate with the quirk's current user, only able to reveal brief glimpses of their existence through quick flashes of their image and through the first user's retelling of the origin of the quirk. But this all changed when the quirk got passed on to the 9th user, Mr. Protagonist Boy himself, Izuku Midoriya. Of course, the teenage protagonist has gotta be special. When Izuku got One For All and began to train it up and add his own strength into the power, something strange started to happen, as not only did the overall strength of the quirk begin to increase, but so did the size of its core. And because of this increase, the previous user's consciences also started gaining enough strength to communicate with one another and the current user. In simple terms, imagine the power One For All as a fire. Every time a user trained a quirk and passed it on, the flames of the fire got bigger and stronger. But in Midoriya's case, not only are the flames getting stronger, but so is the source of the flames. And because the source is getting bigger, it's giving everything inside of it, the previous user's quirks, more strength, i.e. allowing the previous user's minds within One For All to communicate with one another and the user. This sudden growth of One For All's core is also the reason why Deku, unlike any host before him, can access and use all of the previous user's quirks. Because if One For All wasn't OP enough, why not give its users 6 other supercharged abilities? Anyone else remember when Deku was quirkless? The Lunchtime crew remembers. For those curious few who are wondering what exactly the other quirks are inside of One For All, well, they are Float, which does as the name implies, allows the user to levitate and suspend themselves in the air, Smokescreen, which allows the user to generate a thick cloud of smoke from their body, Black Whip, which grants its user the ability to produce black energy tendrils from their body and command them at will, Danger Sense, which is essentially Spider Sense or Peter Tingle, where the user can detect any potential threats in the surrounding area, and then there are 2 currently unnamed and unseen abilities. But don't worry, when these quirks finally get revealed, I will make a video about them and leave a link to the video right up here. But if you happen to be watching this video and there is no link, then unfortunately we still haven't got any new information on them just yet. Which means you should probably hit that red subscribe button down here and click that bell icon to be informed the moment I release that video. Now that's a smooth transition. What was I talking about again? Sure enough, Deku gaining the power to use multiple quirks and talk with those quirks' original users is all well and good, but there are some stipulations. Firstly, there is the fact that One For All's core needs to grow big enough to access all of these powers. Originally, the first quirk Deku gains access to is Black Whip, and when he does, he communicates with the quirk's original user, Daijiro Banjo, which is a pretty awesome name. However, this conversation with Banjo is brief, as at the time, One For All wasn't strong enough to fully maintain the link between their consciences. This is also, besides the narrative reasons, why Midoriya doesn't gain access to all of the quirks at the same time. He first has to increase the power of One For All's core through training before he gains a new ability. Secondly, the original users themselves have to grant the current user access to their abilities. The reason why we haven't seen 2 of the previous users' quirks yet is because they actually haven't allowed Midoriya to use them. These 2 users are the 2nd and 3rd users, who are also both still unnamed, and their refusal of Midoriya is shown to us by the fact that every time Midoriya sees the vestiges of those 2, they are silhouetted out. And thirdly, while Midoriya gets a bunch of new abilities, he also has to learn how to control them just like he does with One For All. This has resulted in Midoriya using his new quirks as if they were support items. Rather than using them to take down villains, he uses them to give himself the upper hand and to set himself up for a finishing blow. Now, with all of this information, there are probably 2 questions on your mind. 1, where is Midoriya when he's talking with the previous users, and why is he all smoky? And 2, if Midoriya can see the previous users' vestiges because of their original quirks, how can he see All Might, someone who is quirkless? And my response to these questions are, shut the fuck up. You're making me look bad in front of all these people, you motherfucker. To answer the first question, all of the conversations Midoriya has with the previous users take place within his subconscious and One for All. As I've previously stated, quirks are directly connected to their user's conscience and subconscious. And now that Midoriya possesses One for All, the quirk has connected to his mind. So, whenever Midoriya gets glimpses of the previous users, it's One for All directly communicating with his subconscious. This is why every time Midoriya sees or communicates with the previous users of the quirk, it's when he is in a state where his subconscious is the most active, such as when he's being brainwashed by Shinzo, like in the sports festival when he first saw them, or in the giant training arc when he first made contact with Banjo, when he is sleeping, like when he saw the origins of One for All, or when he is in a coma, just like after the Paranormal War arc. Now, the realm in which these conversations take place has changed. While initially being a barren, ghastly landscape surrounded by darkness, after Shigaraki and All for One attempted to steal One for All from Midoriya, all of the consciences held within gained the ability to freely communicate with one another. Up to this point, while previous users had communicated with Midoriya, they actually couldn't communicate with each other. They were aware of each other's existence, but remained unable to talk in any shape or form. And once this happened, the unconscious realm where the users talked with Deku changed. Instead of an empty void, it turned into the very room where One for All was created, with 8 big chairs, one for each of the old users. Sometime after this event as well, all of the previous users gained the ability to communicate with Deku whenever they felt like it, appearing in a ghostly form beside him. Also, I do want to point out that these vestiges can see and feel everything Deku sees and feels. I bet they regret ever letting this quirk get passed on to a teenage boy in the mists of puberty. As for why Midoriya has a smoky figure, well, it's simply because he hasn't fully gained control of the quirk. Now, to answer question 2 on how All Might can appear within One for All even though he doesn't have a quirk, it's a bit more complicated. After the Paranormal War arc, when Midoriya is having his first group counseling session with the old users, it's revealed that One for All is actually too powerful to be possessed by a person who already has a quirk. If One for All is given to a person with a pre-existing quirk, they can make use of the power and train it as normal. However, over time, the combined power of One for All with this pre-existing quirk will prove to be too much for the user's body, causing it to break down rapidly, destroying itself, leading to an early death. This revelation occurred because of the 4th user, Hikage Shinomori, who has held the quirk for the second longest out of any of the users. And the only reason he didn't hold it any longer was because it killed him before he could. So the next time you see a what if this person got One for All, the answer is they're dead. They would die. That is, unless that person is quirkless. As the first user of One for All, whose name is Yoichi Shigaraki by the way, in case you're wondering, informed us. If a quirkless person gets One for All, their body accepts the quirk as if it was always theirs to begin with, perfectly adjusting itself to the new power, making them the perfect vessel. This is why All Might felt no side effects of possessing One for All, because his body took the power in as its own, and it's also because of this why All Might's vestige appears alongside everyone else's. One for All became All Might's quirk, so him passing it on was like Yoichi passing it on to the second user. His conscience became eternally connected with the ability. Now this has actually led to some interesting development in the story, as since All Might himself is still alive in the real world, every time he learns something new, his vestige learns it too, and it can communicate that new information to all of the other users. This also works vice versa, so if the vestige learns something, so does All Might. So this means that Midoriya and All Might can now basically communicate with each other telepathically, as if they weren't the greatest father-son duo already. As for why All Might's vestige is all ghostly and everyone else's isn't, it hasn't been fully stated, but it's probably because he is still alive. But the real question remains. If having a quirk and One for All kills its user, how can Deku use all of the quirks of the previous users without consequences? And the answer is simple. It's because of, And That, bitches, bros, and my non-binary hoes, is the full breakdown of absolutely everything we currently know about the quirk One for All. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and comment your thoughts and opinions about the quirk below. If you'd like to see more content like this, don't forget to Detroit smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.